Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 589 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Pacha Hornaday, and we discuss how to create a blueprint of chiropractic messaging. Stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Pacha Hornaday coming on. I'm really excited for this interview. She is a brand strategist, and we're going to take a deep dive on all things that she is interested in, which is communication, understanding what chiropractic's competition is in the marketplace. And she does this really cool thing for offices where she creates training manuals and helps chiropractors understand how to brand themselves better. So today we're going to talk about creating the blueprint of the chiropractic message. And before we get into this episode, I want to let you guys know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? Well, first things first, freedom of speech is so important. So this episode is to preserve freedom of speech for this beautiful profession of chiropractic. And then we also stand on medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things, but they definitely matter to every single one of you that will be watching this. And chiropractors are very important in what is going on in the geopolitical system right now when it comes to medical health freedom. So support your local chiropractor. And if you've not seen a chiropractor, go find one. And we'll tell you why that is important today on this interview. We'll get a bit more philosophical. The sacred trust. That's something that we protect. If you don't know what that means, it's BJ Palmer's last words. Go do a quick search on your favorite search engine right now. Stop this interview and go find out what BJ Palmer's last words were. I guarantee you're going to know more about chiropractic than you previously did, for real. And as we roll into this more philosophical, we support subluxation-based chiropractic, which I know Pacha's introduction into chiropractic was Steve Tullius. He's very much subluxation-based. And then we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. I know some people are like, what is that? Is that woo-woo? No, it's real. Because when you get adjusted, it connects man or woman, the physical, to man or woman, the spiritual. And just wait till you find out what a chiropractor can do to unlock that inside of you. With all of that, this is episode 589 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Pacha, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to finally meet you and be here.
Yeah, so I think we should go back in time a little bit, and we should tell that origin story of how you got into chiropractic and how you're like, wow, I can help this group of practitioners develop a better message, and this is what you guys are giving to me. Let's do better.
Yes, as you said, I got introduced to chiropractic care. I feel really lucky that I got introduced to chiropractic care by Dr. Steve Tullius. He was my very first chiropractor. I got a referral to him from my acupuncturist. So I was already sort of in the alternative healthcare space a little bit, massages and, things like yoga, things like that. And she recommended I check him out. So I went to my first appointment, and he's really great at explaining what chiropractic is. I'm sure you know. So he explained it to me, and my mind was blown. I'm a somewhat logical person. So just explaining, what happens in the body, it made so much sense to me. And I was like, why doesn't everybody know about this? That was my first reaction. And while I was sitting in the waiting room, I was checking out the brochures on the table he had there, and they were horrible. And I was like, well, no wonder nobody knows about this. They were super dated, and, I won't name any names, but as a graphic designer, I felt like it wasn't the right way of communicating that important message. Let's put it that way. So that was my initial response, that I just wanted to make it look better and help chiropractors communicate that message better, the big idea better, right? But it took me a little while to really focus on the brand strategy part of it. And that happened years later. A friend of mine actually went to Live West to become a chiropractor, and I went there to shadow her for a week. And after that week, I was pretty much ready to become a chiropractor myself. I was ready to sign up and say, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to have this kind of impact on people's lives. It kind of made me look at my graphic design and say, well, this is all like pretty stuff on the outside. Like, I want to make real change, have real impact on people's lives. So I was like ready to change my careers and become a chiropractor. But on the last day of that week, I attended a seminar by Bill Estep. I'm sure you all know, Patient Media, right? He was there to give a seminar to the doctors-to-be. I don't even remember what it was about. Marketing something, probably. But he was sharing his chiropractic story. And obviously he's not a chiropractor, right? He has his story and how it has influenced his decision on helping tell the chiropractic story and helping chiropractors have a bigger impact. And I kind of had an epiphany at that seminar, thinking, well, I don't have to become a chiropractor to have impact. I can use the skills I already have and help chiropractors have a bigger impact. And it kind of multiplies that way, right? Instead of helping one person at a time, I have to help chiropractors reach more people. And that way they can, I can exponentially help more people. So that was kind of set in my mind at that point. But it took a few more years to really, for me, really to take the step and say, okay, I'm not just helping anybody anymore. I'm really focusing on chiropractors. And once I did that, like, my business really changed, because that's what I tell my clients, like, you narrow down your audience and it becomes so much easier to market and to sell to them, because you speak their language, you know what their problems are really well, and you know what they're struggling with, you know what they're hoping for in their business and in their lives and things like that. And it becomes much easier to help them, right? You get better results, you can do a better service. So that's kind of what led me down that path of helping chiropractors. I just really connected with that message, with the big idea. And in the end, chiropractic is about communication too. And that's always like really close. Chiropractic and branding for me are very similar. It's about getting a message across, whether it's from the brain to the rest of the body, or from, the chiropractor to their audience. So.
Well, I think it's really important that you said, okay, I see where there's a need. I want to support this. How long did it take you to start to investigate and to do your research before you decided that there was a path for you to start helping chiropractors and to become better communicators with their own philosophy and their own methods?
You mean, how long did it take me to narrow down and only help chiropractors?
Yeah.
That took a while, because I was scared. I was scared to say, what if I only speak to chiropractors? Like, I'm going to lose money on the table by only talking to those people. What about all the other people I'm helping? The naturopaths and the acupuncturists and the midwives, and those were the people I was naturally attracting in my business. And, I was going to say, oh, no, I'm going to be the brand strategist for chiropractors. So that was like my, it took me probably, I don't know, 7-8 years before I said, okay, I'm really going to do it. And by the time I had left the United States, I had traveled across Europe for a year, I had landed in Spain, and then I made that decision to really try this for a year. I built a new website with a new name, said, okay, and give myself 1 year to try it out with the chiropractors and see if I can really do that only for them. So I reached out to Steve Tullius at the time, and I was like, okay, Steve, where do I need to be? Who do I need to know? Like, I want to try this out. And he gave me advice. I took the advice, and business took off. It really worked really well, even through COVID. This was the end of 2019. I made that decision. So it was like right before COVID started. But yeah, so it took me a long time to just overcome that fear that I can see a lot of other people and chiropractors now have too. It's like narrowing it down and being more effective doing that.
So now that you've said this is the path for me, let's talk from the advice standpoint. What would you tell a chiropractor if they wanted to attract more new patients and grow their business?
Okay, so I told you already, I'm all about communication. And I think that's really what it comes down to for chiropractors as well. Like, you need to be a really good communicator. And before you can communicate, you have to have something to say, right? So we call those core messages. And they're basically based on, who do I help? Who else is helping them already? And why am I different from those people? Right? So that's looking at your competition and saying, okay, those people can help you too, but here's how I'm different. Here's why you should choose me. And then a part that's often overlooked, I believe, are the secondary core messages. Those are your values and your why, like why you're, why you're a chiropractor in the first place, for one thing, and then why you're helping a certain sub audience, a sub segment of the market. Like, you're not helping everybody. Maybe you're a pediatric chiropractor, maybe you're, helping athletes. So why those people? Like, what's your story? People don't share that story often enough. And I think that's really important. Like, people look for people that have a purpose and that communicate that purpose. It's becoming more and more important to explain that and share that in your messaging as well. There's too much medical talk, I think.
Sure. Well, I know that, off camera, we were discussing like methods that work for chiropractors to grow their practices. What have you noticed are the best ways from your clients of how they've actually been able to get new people into the office and convert them?
They have to share what I just explained, really. Like,
but is it a Facebook ad? Is it doing a dinner workshop? Is it doing a lunch and learn?
That exactly depends on who your audience is, because you're not going to attract everybody the same way. There are people that will never go, to an event in your office. They would never do that. There are people that would never click on a Facebook deal, a Facebook ad for a new patient special. They would just not do this. They're not interested in deals. They want the best of the best, for example. So it's not oh, you have to do this. This is what usually marketing agencies do. Like, this works for me, you should do this. But this is not how you should approach it. You should look at, who am I trying to attract? And then what attracts those people? What do they actually want from me? Are they looking for somebody to listen because they have never been listened to since they had this problem with their health? They've always been ignored or laughed at or said, oh, don't worry, they grow out of it, or whatever it is. Are they looking for somebody who just cares more? Or are they looking for somebody who has answers, and they want to see all the scans and they want you to explain everything to them? Different people need different things from you. And that's what I help people figure out. Why do people come to you?
Why do they?
Why do they? Exactly. That's what you got to figure out. Do they come to you because they want answers? Do they come to you because they feel a connection with you? They want to feel like you listen to them, That's exactly what you got to figure out. And once you figure that out, it becomes a lot easier, and it informs all your decisions. It informs your marketing. It informs what lead magnets you create. If you do a workshop or master class, or if you do an in-person event, or if you create like a checklist to download or a recipe, you know what I mean? It really depends on the person you're trying to attract. Not one thing works for everybody.
So how do you do the process of determining, working with a client and identifying who their avatar is?
Most people know things about their clients already. They know who their favorite clients are. And once we dig a little bit deeper and figure out why those are their favorite clients, then you can focus on, okay, who are those people and what is important to them in their lives? Why is taking care of their health important to them? It's not about the pain or whatever the problem is. It's what knock-on effects that problem has in their lives, right? Like, is it that they can't pick up their grandchild off the floor? Is it that they can't run, their 5Ks anymore because everything starts hurting? what is the internal fear or the internal desire that they can't have anymore. That's what you got to figure out.
So say somebody listens to this episode and they're like, Pacha is great. Like, how do I like take what she's talking about and utilize it? Like, I think that's really like where I'm at with like the conversation is like vision, brand, and purpose. Let's talk about that. Like, say you get a new client because of the show and they're like, hey, Pacha, what can I do to go the right direction? And explain to them. I know that you said that you have to find out who you want to take care of. Who do you want to be a pediatric office, or do you want to be a sports chiropractor? How do you transition that into helping them create their brand?
Okay, so we start with, there's two big pieces to it. One of them is what we just talked about. It's your positioning strategy, which is your audience, your competition, and what makes you different, your differentiator. I always call it the meat and bones of your brand. That's the part that's the minimum you have to know, right? Who am I trying to attract? And we have a strategy, we have a process that we go through to help you figure out who that is. And branding isn't something that's done. It's not like we work together and then you have all the answers and then you just move on from there. It's an ongoing process, but we create the awareness, and then what questions to ask of your audience. You can do that through polls or focus groups. You can have whiteboard questions in your waiting room, and you ask people, what their favorite coffee shop is locally or whatever, things like that.
So do you coach your clients and tell them what type of content to produce?
I do that for some people, but really it's before. Like I help them figure out what they need to communicate. And then they can take that's the strategy piece. They can take that to their copywriter if they have one, or I can help them, find one, to create the content. I can help them, that strategy piece, that missing manual, as we call it, contains all the messages that you have to get across. And then they just take that and give it to their content creators and to their designers, and they know how to implement that strategy. So we do part of the implementation. Like, I'm a designer at heart, so I do the visual implementation of it. I help them create logos and the color palette and all those things. And then there's, verbal implementers, and then there's website creators, and they all take that strategy and it will tell them how you need to show up. I told you that before, we use brand archetypes for that. So we create an archetype for your brand, which is like a fictitious person, and that makes it very clear on how you have to show up as a brand, which colors make more sense because you're a sage archetype or a lover archetype. They look and speak differently. You would use different logos and different colors depending on what archetype your brand is.
So I know BJ Palmer was a master of communication. He started his own radio station. He was the developer of Chiropractic, and he focused on something called auto regulation. And that was developing how people use their tone, the intensity, and their pitch of communication. And I know you said that you're going to be doing some work on similar topics coming up. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. I compare it to the 5 love languages because most people are somewhat aware of what that is. It's the way we show love and the way we feel loved when somebody does it to us, right? There's 5 different love languages. So with branding, it's kind of similar. When it comes to your business, it's similar. Like I said, we talk to different people in a different way, and you can attract certain people with certain things, but not others. So you want to figure out the people that I'm trying to attract. How can I do that? We bring it down to 4 different languages, if you will. So one of them is inspiring greatness. So those are the inspirational people. Then there's providing structure. Those are the blueprint people that want the step-by-step process, things like that, checklists. Then we have initiating action people. They don't want to have long conversations. They just want to know the facts and then make a decision at the end. And then we have making connections people. Those are the huggers and the ones that want to see you. They want to hear your voice. They take the process a lot longer. So that's really what it comes down to. And there you're attracted to a certain type of person depending on who you are yourself, what your language is, but also it depends on the context of your problem. So for example, I'm a inspirational person, I'm a creative person, you know, my personality wise. So I'm attracted to other inspirational companies or creative companies like, you know, Apple, not IKEA, but Lego, right? Creative businesses. I'm attracted to them. I'm attracted to the way they market because they inspire me to be more creative. But in the context of a problem that I'm having, I might be looking for something else. For example, I always have new ideas, right? That's like my big thing. I have all those ideas, all the things I want to do, but I have a hard time implementing some of them because there's always new stuff. I get distracted. I want to do this. Oh, this is great. Let's do that, right? So when it comes to my business, for example, when I'm looking for business advice, I don't need another inspirational company that inspires me to do more. I need somebody that grounds me and brings me down and said, okay, let's take a break. Let's look at what makes the most sense. You know, do this first and do that. That gives me some structure to my craziness, right? So I'm looking for a different, a different way of communicating. I need something else from that brand that's not inspirational. Does that make sense?
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Chiro HD, Evo Creative Media, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Imaging Services, Chiro Moguls, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now let's hustle. Yeah, my takeaway is back in the day, I don't know, 15 years ago when I first started into chiropractic, I would help go through resumes for people that wanted to work at the front desk. And people are like always telling in their initial like top third was, I'm great at multitasking. And now
it used to be a thing.
It used to be a thing. And now we really want somebody that can get clear and do one thing really well and not do it distracted. And we don't want people to be multitasking because we know what happens is when people go multitasking, the job doesn't get done. So it's really cool that you help people build their clarity of their brand design to make sure that they're not taking on everyone. They're taking on who their avatar is, and they get clear on how they want to attract that person.
Exactly.
You know, like it's very interesting that you've honed the skill of that practitioner down to say, look, if you're going to do this, this is going to be your color palette. If you're going to do this, make sure that this is your communication style. If you're going to do this, don't go do a screening on the weekend because that doesn't work for you because you hate that. Like you go and do this because you can build a Facebook group and communicate with them daily and that works for you.
Exactly.
Like I think that we all have our language of how we market and brand and how we interact with, you know, our perfect scenario. I think that our perfect scenario isn't something that they teach us, and they don't even teach you that in, you know, college. You know, you went to school and you learned graphic design. I went to school, I learned journalism, I learned marketing. And then I'm like, I don't even know how to sell. Like, how do I learn how to do that? Well, you go do it 20 times and suck at it. And then you finally say, gosh, I need to hire somebody to teach me how to do this better. So I'm sure that you come into a lot of instances where somebody's like nicked up and they're upset and they're irritated and they're like, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to help me? Like I've tried all these other people. Why is why is what you're going to do work now?
Yeah, that's exactly the point though. Like and I totally get it, right? Like you do something and it works really well for you and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to share that with other people. And then they try it, but it doesn't work for them because they communicate differently or the people they're trying to attract are just not attracted to that thing. So it's all about the clarity. That's exactly right.
Or like I was telling you earlier, like why do Facebook campaigns are they harder today? Well,
Mhm.
the people that used to be on Facebook turned their back on Facebook and left. And why is it harder for chiropractors to advertise on Facebook? Because the cost per acquisition has gone up, because the people that run that organization aren't favorable of natural healers and natural health care.
Mhm.
So when you start looking at the bigger problem, the bigger issue, the leads come in and they're not good quality leads because the people there don't understand holistic health care. And now you're going and looking for people that don't exist anymore, and they
Mhm.
cost more to get, so they're going to come in and you're going to be disappointed. So the conversions aren't going to happen. Doesn't matter how dialed in your messaging is, doesn't matter how much money you throw into the campaign,
Mhm.
you're going to look for an audience that doesn't really exist there anymore. So
It
we have to
depends
be
a
super
little bit.
clear.
Yes, totally. I agree. It depends a little bit though on what you're offering. I think, the straight sales are not happening anymore. Like that's, like it's just really hard to sell somebody, like to get money, direct money. Like it's just not happening. Like you really have to build a relationship first. So depending on what your language is and what your audience's language is, that's what you need to offer them, right? Like offer them challenges, offer them a download of some white paper or a study or something, depending on what they want from you. Do they want information or connection or action or whatever?
Awareness,
That's what you got to offer them.
awareness campaigns and community is what people want.
Hmm.
They want you
Community,
to
for sure, real
they,
people.
they want you to invite them in.
Hmm.
That's the big thing, is if you can invite people in and build a community with them, eventually they'll do business with you.
I
And
agree.
that's really what this podcast has done for me, is it's built a community for me. I invite people in, now they are seeing what's possible and they're like, hey, let's do business together. And that's the real thing with anybody that does any type of marketing. You have to go towards your ideal client. Like my ideal client is chiropractors. I show up at every chiropractic seminar, every chiropractic event. I interview 5 chiropractors every Tuesday, or people that work in the chiropractic profession. Today we're doing 3. So I know who my avatar is. I'm super clear. And then you figure out how to serve that person. And that's the real beauty about anything that we do with communication, is now we have a funnel, which is a podcast, and people are attracted to it, and we get 60,000 people a month listening to it, and then they're like, huh, that's really great stuff. And then how do we continue that? So anybody out there that's watching this, I would recommend start a podcast too, for
Oh, I
for your
know.
for your attraction, and do that for your clinic. And it doesn't always have to be interviews. You can just have people give you questions. One of my past interviews,
Hmm.
somebody just gave him questions, and he just does a solo show where he goes on and talks for 5 minutes about a question somebody proposes to them, and then that's the show. So it doesn't have to be anything other than consistent. So consistent branding and messaging, I think, is what people really
Yep.
need to take away from our conversation today. Not only hiring you to help them with their brand strategy, but also understanding, once they get into a brand strategy, what are they going towards, and what do
How
they
to
need,
implement it.
and what do they
Exactly.
need? Well,
Hmm.
they need to be consistent. And like you said, I'm going to give this opportunity 1 year. I'm going to work with chiropractic for 1 year and see what it does. Like, that's what type of clarity proposition chiropractors need to understand about doing anything with brand building or strategy or vision, is give it time. Like, you can't put money into something and expect it to have an ROI in 90 days. It's just not the way the world works. Like, if you do that, you're a one percenter. Like, you have to have a understanding of reality that the long game wins. And that's really what you can help them do, is build that foundation, but then they have to be consistent with what you provide to them, to where that their long game will win.
Exactly.
And that they just keep on going forward and don't say, oh, I'm discouraged now, I'm on a holiday, I come back and it's we're not doing this anymore. Like, you have to give it time. That's the part where people don't understand. Like, we're 6.5 years into this Chiro hustle thing, and I'm still learning, and I'm still developing, and I'm still learning how to make relationships turn into business. So I think it's a never ending process that people are going to have to, like, one day say, at least I have a good brand.
That's right.
At the end of the day,
That's
at least you
right.
have a good brand. So let's turn back a little bit more towards your vision. I know you're not a chiropractor. I'm not either. But if you had a crystal ball and you like were able to look into it, where would you say that the chiropractic profession is going?
Well, I can tell, I don't know where it's going. And, if you ask chiropractors, I wonder, I mean, everybody has an opinion, but what I see as the biggest problem is that they can't agree on anything. Where I would like to see it going is into the direction it went for me. That is, being the primary care for people. That's where I would want to see it. So it's the first thing they choose before trying all the other avenues, before trying drugs and surgeries and things like that. When anything is wrong, you go to the chiropractor first to make sure that, your body is communicating with your brain and vice versa. Like that's where I think, I would like to see it.
I love that. I love it so much. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Because, chiropractors should be port of entry for any type of ailment, any type of infirmary, any type of injury. And one of my good friends, Eric Plasker, always say, chiropractic first, chiropractic second, chiropractic third, chiropractic fourth, chiropractic fifth, chiropractic and drug sixth, chiropractic and surgery seventh, but don't leave chiropractic out within what the next step is. Like make sure that you continuously get your nervous system checked and adjusted as needed. Like I think that that's a part where people sometimes get into a silo. They think if it's one or the other, like it can be both. Like if you are on that path of like you're on like lifetime medicine, go see the chiropractor still. Like
it'll make everything more effective.
Yes. So like we live in this world where it's one or the other. Like that didn't work, so I need to try this. Like it's okay to still like admit that you're not guilty if you are on medicine. You're not guilty if you had surgery, but also you should have the advice and the care of a chiropractor along that journey to where that part of your life is getting better served and better complete. And you have somebody that's not inside of the big box medicine arena. You have somebody that's inside of the small, I love you, I care for you, and I want to get your life on a better path arena. So it's not one or the other.
Yes. And I think what I also want to include in that is the proactive care. So not just going, when there is a problem or when you're feeling off, but actually just going regularly to make sure that you're just in the best shape you can be, right?
Well, there's an adage that you're either going to invest in your health now or you're going to pay for sickness later.
Yep.
And I think that if people really understood the big idea, then they would take care of themselves along that journey to where when they did come into crisis care, that they had at least a stronger position within their own ecology of their health, that they can now take that framework and know that they did everything that they could to get themselves healthy for the rest of their life. And I think that that's the continuum of why I ask people where they see the profession going, because I am curious. I am very curious to see where the practitioner thinks that the profession's going. And I'm really curious to see, like, when we do these interviews, like, where will these interviews go? Like, who's going to get this? Who's going to listen to this and say, wow, I think that it'd be really important for me to like take my family to the chiropractor now because this makes sense. And not only paying attention to you as my guest, but paying attention to the overarching message that chiropractic is for everybody. And it doesn't take $1 million to be under care.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of effort to invest in yourself.
I think it's a really important thing actually for chiropractors to think about and to be clear about and to talk about where, how does chiropractic care fit into the community and into the world? Like, this is something that you should be communicating about. Like, what is your vision for your community? And how does chiropractic care fit into this vision that you're having?
Well, one of my favorite chiropractors of all time, his name is Patrick Smith. He's in our first movie, Chiropractic, the documentary. If you guys want the movie, reach out to me. We produced it in 2015. It was released in 2016. And Patrick Smith ran a membership practice. People would pay him a monthly fee to come in for either 2 visits or 4 visits a month. And they were a member of that practice. And he would always tell them on their first visit when they came in and saw him, and he would go over their care with them. He'd say, "Hey, my name is Dr. Patrick Smith. I'm your chiropractor, and you're going to be my patient till one of us blows up. Deal?" And he would shake their hand, and they knew where they were going with him. They were
Mhm.
going to be his chiropractic patient until one of them blew up. And I think it sounds so funny and kind of like weird, but it also anchors into their subconscious is like, this guy's not going to ever leave me. And I don't ever want to leave him.
Mhm.
So it builds a instant bond with somebody to know that he's got their back until one of them blows up.
Exactly.
And then you
A
leave with this
long-term relationship. It's not just about whatever symptoms you're having right now. It's, ongoing care.
and that might be the next step for building a brand with somebody. Like, I'm going to be your client, you're going to be my client until one of us blows up.
Yes. It's an ongoing thing too. There's actually a lot of similarities between branding and chiropractic.
So after you've been working with chiropractors, how long now?
3 years, 4 years.
Tell
4
me
years.
tell me a miracle story of where you found a chiropractor that was stuck and sucked and nothing was working, and all of a sudden you took them in, and now they're doing great things.
They're all doing great things because they're doing what they're doing. I think the biggest impact, it's not, like chiropractic stories, miracle stories, they're usually big, he couldn't hear and all of a sudden he could, or, whatever the big stories are. Branding is a lot more subtle. It's also not like marketing. Marketing has miracle stories like that. Oh, we got that many more clicks or this many more new patients from this thing. Branding doesn't work like that. Branding is a long-term it's a process that takes time, and you don't have a measurable ROI in terms of clicks and and new patients coming in necessarily. I mean, you can measure it, but it's difficult because there are so many other factors, including marketing, right? Like what kind of ads, how many ads, things like that. But you can feel the difference. And that's something that that I notice the most and that I hear the most from my clients. They, first of all, the clarity on who they are as a business and why they are doing things and how do they need to show up, having the clarity of who they are in the space. And then just pride and confidence, I guess. Those are the miracles behind it, because you stand in your space, you fill up your space and you fill it up your way with your values, and not like a fake way of, that you copied from somebody else because it's working for them.
Well, you can't cheat off someone else's homework and expect you to get smarter, number one.
That's right.
And on the outside of that is, I look at, like, when you talk about long-term and this message is, you have to keep on doing what you're supposed to do and learn what you're supposed to do. And the first clinic I ever worked in, people that know me know I worked in a clinic for 6 years also, in the 15 years I've been a part of this profession. So I understood it from the inside too. And when I was working in the clinic, the docs would go and learn communication. And I'm like, you guys are doctors, okay? How the hell do you need to go learn how to communicate? Like, you guys are the 1%ers of the world. Like, probably less than 1%er of the world are doctors. And you guys are telling me you don't know how to communicate? Like, what are we doing here? How did you guys get through 7 years of school and not know how to talk to people?
No,
Like,
a lot of people don't know.
we need to fix that. So if you guys are looking for that and need help building out that communication style and that blueprint for your messaging, reach out to Pacha Hornaday. Thank you for being episode 589 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I can't think of anything. I mean, if they want to learn more, they can reach out to me.
That's my next question. How do people reach out to you?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. Just look for Pacha Hornaday. It's a pretty unique name. You can go to balanced-brands, balance-brands.com, and learn more about how I help my clients. There's a masterclass that I'm actually teaching on Saturday about lead generation and how to communicate better. So that kind of fits right into what we're talking about, what we've been talking about. So if you'd like to learn more about archetypes and, languages, brand languages, that's what I'll be talking about.
So if people wanted to learn more about branding and archetypes, reach out to Pacha on Facebook or Instagram and go to balancebrands.com. Yeah.
balance-brands.com. Yes.
balance-brands.com.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you being on with me today and sharing messages of hope to people when it comes to creating their businesses and getting more their direct message to people the way that it's supposed to be curated and developed and deployed. So thank you, Pacha, for being episode 589 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I close out always telling people you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.